Matthew, thanks very much for joining us today. Looking forward to the energy expansion versus energy transition panel, which you'll be joining later. Maybe just to kick us off, can you please just give a quick overview and introduction to climate investments and where you fit into the decarbonisation capital stack, just for those watching in today who may not be as familiar with the group as we are?
Yeah. No, well, thank you for the invite to this conference and the opportunity to speak on the panel and have this conversation as well. So I'm Matthew Harwood. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer from Climate Investment. We are a fund manager initially established by the Oil and Gas Climate Initiative back in 2016 to invest in early stage climate technologies. So technologies that can support us reducing GHG emissions. Initially, we focused in the oil and gas space itself, looking to bring down Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions from oil and gas. But over the last 6 years, we've expanded into other GHG-intensive sectors. We now have a suite of nearly 40 different company investments at the venture stage, and all of these organizations really focus on reducing GHG emissions. We're halfway through raising a second fund. We're going to do a slightly later stage in the capital stack, so more growth equity as opposed to venture capital, where we're supporting climate-focused companies expand their operations, where they need capital to do invest in new manufacturing facilities or to expand globally, potentially, to really start ramping up the adoption of that technology. So we're managing about $2 billion at the moment of capital, and looking to continue expanding to have impact.
Okay, fantastic. No, that's a great introduction, and I think to delve into some of the nitty-gritty for a successful transition, I think obviously we've got a lot of the oil and gas companies in the room today and over the course of the week with us. Oil and gas as an industry has an important role to play, and these companies and these management teams have an important role to play as expert technicians working in close partnership with innovators to adopt their solutions in their supply chains. And I think specialist investors like Climate Investment have a role to play in matching market adopters with the right solutions and in getting the right solutions into the sectors and regions which can benefit materially. I mean, maybe you can elaborate on that and some of the roles that you have to play in acting as a market matcher and so on and so forth.
Well, I think let me start at a high level. I really like the theme that you have for this conference about this sort of interconnectivity between the oil and gas world and energy transition world and renewables. Because I do see, and I've worked in both, I've spent time in renewables and in oil and gas in my career, so I do see lots and lots of important touch points between the two worlds. Just to give a couple of examples, I mean, I used to be involved in offshore wind. You can't build an offshore wind farm without using hydrocarbons to build it. So there are real examples of where, the renewables industry is completely dependent on oil and gas. There are no heavy lift vessels which run on electricity. To install an offshore wind turbine, you need a very, very powerful offshore construction vessel which runs on fuel, diesel, not on electricity. And but similarly, the world of oil and gas was learning from the world of the energy transition and renewables. I'll give you a couple of examples. We do a lot of work on energy efficiency. How do you use energy in your processes, in your facilities, in your buildings more effective? We're starting to bring in some of those technologies to support the oil and gas sector, reduce its Scope 1 and 2 emissions. Another important area is looking at bringing in new technologies which have come from remote sensing to look for methane leaks and to help companies reduce that methane leak intensity in the oil and gas space. And then taken to a larger extent, one of the big opportunities for oil and gas is to electrify its operations wherever it can. And I think we're starting to see very nice synergies between renewables and oil and gas operations, where we're actually using the renewable power directly in the operations to run compression or pumping or whatever electrically, rather than use them on site to do that. So I will expand on this in the panel later, but really a lot of interconnections between those two worlds, both sides helping each other.
No, it's fascinating, and I think I want to get into the nitty-gritty. I mean, you alluded to obviously a lot of the investments so far have been venture stage. You've raised in the second fund, which is going to be more growth equity phase. Each year we run an assembly at the New York Stock Exchange. We had the team at Climate Investment join us there as well. And that is around, I guess, scaling a lot of these proven technologies to help achieve or to enable them to achieve wide-scale commercial deployment. And I think there's a real bottleneck in that you've got a lot of traditional investors, private equity firms, some of the bigger investors who have traditionally invested in fossil fuels. They're now struggling in the current fundraising environment to raise new funds for that and are having to evolve and put their money into low carbon initiatives and projects and technologies. But I think it's a very different investment approach. So some of the feedback that we took away from that was how different investors across the capital stack, from venture capital to growth equity to private equity to strategics, EPC companies, service companies, work together to de-risk some of these investment opportunities and scale up technology. So from your perspective, how do you get some of these larger investors, because there's no denying that private capital, and we've heard it so far this morning, private capital is going to be fundamental in achieving the wide-scale deployment of a lot of these low-carbon solutions. How do we mobilize that investment and get some of these larger investors comfortable? How do different capital providers across the capital stack work together to make that happen?
Well, it's you're raising a very, very important challenge because, yes, we need more capital. I mean, I think the numbers from the IEA suggesting we need about 3 to 4 times more capital than we deployed in 2022 into the energy transition. So we do need all actors to step up, whether it's private capital or public capital. We are doing our own part of that by moving from the venture stage to more growth stage, where we will be investing larger tickets in companies. So we're thinking more between, rather than investing 5 to 20 million in a company, you're investing perhaps 25 to 75 or so in a company to really help that step up and to growth the company. And I think what you're seeing is you're sort of seeing this wave of specialist climate investors come through, you might say, the capital stack. So when we started in 2016, 2017, we were, along with Breakthrough, one of the very earliest climate-focused investors. You've seen a proliferation of climate-focused VC companies this spring, which is great. More capital coming in. Now you're starting to see more growth equity specialists appearing. But I think what we also need is some of those larger platforms, the bigger sort of PE platforms, bio platforms, infrastructure platforms, who are dealing with more mature assets to really build their climate capabilities and climate focus, so that we can get those larger checks, larger balance sheets also coming into this space alongside the public capital. And I think there are some tools they need to help them do that. One of the tools that we've worked a lot on is really getting very, very sharp on estimating the GHG and the different things to invest in. So we have developed a methodology with partners called Project Frame, which provides methodologies for how do you assess the GHG impact of investment. So you can seek to do the best investment. And we're also currently working on tools as well. So how do you automate that and make it more simple to do these assessments of the GHG impact to help capital come. So a lot of work to do. We all have to work hard to attract more capital into this space and to get it allocated in the best way.
And obviously we've spoken a lot about the investment side there. I mean, from an oil and gas industry perspective, what is the sector's role during different phases of new technology deployment, ranging from early stage development to scaled commercial application? I think some of the bits of feedback we receive is it takes a long time for these companies to bring on new processes, onboard new technologies. So what is the role of the oil and gas sector?
We totally agree with that challenge. And I used to work in upstream, so I know the oil and gas industry reasonably well. My view of the oil and gas industry is they are fantastic project. At their core, they are project developers and project deliverers. And they generally buy technology. They don't develop technology. It's often developed elsewhere in the supply chain, in oil field services companies, etc. And I think probably this is going to be the same in the energy transition. The technology will be invented, innovated outside of the oil and gas companies. They will hopefully be very, very well informed and extremely ambitious early adopters of this technology. that is one of the roles that we play at CI. We try and be the eyes for our investors, which are a subset of the oil and gas companies, into the market, what's going on in innovation. And then we also try and help bridge the gap between the innovators and the adopters in our organization by having people like me and my colleagues from industry that kind of speak the language of the large company and help the innovative companies figure out how do you do procurement, how do you get technical sign-off of a particular technology. And the other benefit of our consortium that we work within is that, if one company has checked the technology out, adopted and says it's good to go for safety, integrity, compliance, etc., then what we can do is try and encourage the other companies to essentially rely on that to accelerate the adoption of that technology because one of their brothers or sisters has already tried it out. So just a couple of the ideas about how we're trying to work to help bridge that chasm that we talk about, this chasm between the innovator and the adopter. How do you help bridge that gap? So we can speed up adoption.
Brilliant. Well, I think there's a sort of consistent theme of the importance of getting all shareholders on board and sort of spreading that risk out to get everybody comfortable and sort of on that same path, moving in the same direction. But Matthew, thanks for the time. Looking forward to hearing more about this and elaborating on the panel later in the day. So good chatting with you.
Thank
and
you very much.
look forward to the panel later today.
Yeah.